Your attention, please. Do not leave baggage unattended.
It's a generic, nondescript door tucked away in the main terminal at DIA, room 6370. But it's a magnet for Denver officers working at the airport. There's a steady stream of cops in and out. If you figured it's a police command post filled with high-tech gear to monitor the airport, you're wrong. It's a lounge for paramedics and police. There are chairs scattered around, a TV, a couple of desks, and a bed for paramedics. But as we watched over the course of 2 months, picking days at random, we found Denver police officers assigned to patrol the airport terminal spending hours of their shift holed up in the lounge, sometimes as many as 4 officers at a time, unable to see the traveling public or be seen. These officers are allowed one 15-minute break and one 30-minute meal break per shift, 45 minutes total. But we found them taking a whole lot more. Earlier this month, 2 NFL playoff games are on TV. We watched this officer go in and out of the lounge. In for 24 minutes, out for 5. In for 54 minutes, out for 11. In for 28 minutes, then out. In, out, in, out, in, out, a total of 10 times, spending a total of 4 hours and 18 minutes in the lounge. That's more than half his 8-hour shift in a lounge that's off limits to the public. Same day, same shift. We watched this officer spend nearly 3 hours of his shift in the lounge. A third officer on the same shift has a similar pattern. He too spends nearly 3 hours in the lounge. All this after September 11th, after 20 extra officers were assigned to the airport, after checkpoints were put in place at DIA, after the National Guard was brought in, after an alleged shoe bomber was arrested, after at least one of the September 11th terrorists had passed through DIA. You might think all airport officers were on high alert. It did not look that way to us. A week before Christmas, a busy time for air travel. Monday Night Football is on. We watch this officer enter at 6:06. When we leave at 8:15, more than 2 hours later, he is still inside. And 2 other officers are in the lounge nearly as long. Also in January, it's the day after the National Guard presence at DIA has been decreased. So are the Denver officers more vigilant? We watch for 4 hours. In that time, this officer is inside for more than 2 hours out of the 4. This officer spent 1 hour 22 minutes in the lounge, and this one was inside for 1 hour and 17 minutes. Now remember, their regulations call for 45 minutes of break time per 8-hour shift. We hardly ever saw the officers carry any paperwork like official reports in or out of the lounge. And more than once we watched police sergeants drop by and leave, leaving several officers in the lounge.
Down low, backhand, oh, and a left skate save.
2 weeks ago, an Avs game is on TV. This officer is in the lounge for nearly 2 hours straight while the game is on. And a second officer is also inside for nearly as long.
You can sit there and watch him eat if you want.
We wanted to see what's going on in there, so we went in undercover. In a darkened back room, an officer is watching TV. He had been there nearly an hour before we ever arrived. No report writing or anything official seems to be going on. The sergeant makes it clear he doesn't like what's on TV.
You know, I don't like Peter Boyles.
DIA Police Captain Tom Sanchez claims he heard 3 months ago his cops might be loafing.
We've been looking at, like I say, since, well, in November, we started looking at that problem.
But if he knew, why didn't he stop it? Remember, our surveillance was after November, all through December and January, and it looked like nothing had been done.
This is an affront. This is awful.
We showed what we found to Ed Thomas, who heads Denver City Council's DIA committee. When security lines at DIA became unbearable after September 11th, Thomas successfully pushed to get additional Denver officers paid overtime to help alleviate the lines. The extra cops are costing about $5,000 a day.
The traveling public are spooked, and justifiably so. They need to have the presence of uniformed Denver police officers out there to reassure them that it's safe to travel. And what are these guys doing? They're spending 4 hours a day watching the Brady Bunch. It is inexcusable. If there was any supervision out there at all, this kind of activity wouldn't be going on. It's disgraceful.